Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey peeps, today we're going to take a look at Sushi Go Party from Game Right Games. This is, of course, a bigger, expanded edition of the original Sushi Go, which Game Right has an edition of, and which I actually have my very first edition from Adventureland Games of Sushi Go. I just wanted to show that off to show you that I liked Sushi Go before it was cool, you suckers! Okay, but anyways, Sushi Go Party, as I said, is an expanded version of the game, very expanded. So, in the original Sushi Go, and you can watch my review of that, I'll maybe remember to have a link somewhere around here, or just look it up, it is the internet. But in the original Sushi Go, it's a very simple card drafting game, same thing here in Sushi Go Party. But in the original, you had what you had. The cards that you had in the game were what you used all the time. You had no other options. There was like a promo you can get for it, but other than that, that's what it was. And there wasn't any major difference between the original version and the Game Right version of the original Sushi Go. What Sushi Go Party does is give you options. Lots of options. So you always have to have, for instance, rolls and appetizers, but you might have like 4 different rolls to choose from. You might have like 6 different appetizers to choose from or more, and different types of dessert now, all of these different things while keeping the theme of sushi. You're trying to have the best sushi meal you possibly can, but now you just have tons more stuff to choose from the conveyor buffet thing that we don't have here in the US because OSHA? I don't know, actually. But let me go ahead and show you what I mean. Let me show you what's in this box. Oh, of course, where the party part comes in is because it goes up to 8 players now. That is worth mentioning. But let me show you how the new game is played. Then we're going to come back. I'll give you my final thoughts, let you know what I think, whatever I'm saying now. Sushi Go Party is an expanded version of the original Sushi Go. It's a simple card drafting game for 2 to 8 players. You'll be passing around cards representing different food items at a sushi restaurant, trying to get the most points by the end of 3 rounds. What makes Sushi Go Party different is not only the enhanced player count, but the fact that there are now a variety of cards you may choose to use in each game. Party comes with a game board where all players will keep track of their score with pawns. More importantly, the board has slots for tiles that represent the cards you'll be playing with and serves as a reminder for the players. You can randomize them or use the pre-made setups in the book, but either way you must have 1 roll, 2 specials, 3 appetizers, and a dessert. Also, all 3 types of nigiri must be used regardless of the other cards. I'm going to talk about the new cards in a few minutes, but first let me teach you how the game works, whether you're new to the game or old to the game. Put all the cards of each type you've chosen together into a deck, except for the dessert cards. Those cards are placed off to the side, and depending on the number of players, a certain amount of dessert cards will be added to the deck each round. All of these will now be shuffled together, and then a number of cards will be dealt out to each player depending on the number of players. Turns in this game take place simultaneously. Each player takes 1 card from their hand and places it face down. Once every player locks in a card, everyone flips up their card and leaves it in front of them. In most cases, nothing happens now, and you're just building up for the end of the round, though some cards have special effects or give points right away. Then, everyone takes the remainder of their hand and passes it left to the next player. Everyone will then simultaneously play another card from their new hand, and so on and so forth. You will keep doing this until every card is played down in front of you. Then, you score the cards that you've played based on their special rules. Dessert is the only thing you don't score until the end of the 3rd round, and therefore they are the only cards that stay in play and linger from round to round. The rest of the cards, after having been scored at the end of the round, are cleared away. More dessert cards are then added to the deck, and everything is reshuffled and cards are dealt out again. You'll do this for 3 rounds and then see what your total score is. Whoever has the highest score is the winner. Now, let's run through the cards. I'm only going to cover the new cards in this set. You can look at my previous Sushi Go review if you really need to know what the older cards are, because they work basically the same in this new edition. There are 2 new types of dessert. Fruit scores at the end depending on how many icons you have of each type at the end, while green tea ice cream gives you 12 points, but only if you have 4 of them. There are 2 new rolls. Tamaki gives positive or negative points each round depending on who has the most or the least. Using Uramaki is like being in a race. As soon as one player gets to 10 icons during the round, they immediately score 8 points. The next player only gets 5 points, and the third player to do this only gets 2 points. For appetizers, eels give you -3 points if you only get stuck with 1, but give you 7 points for having 2 or more. Edamame gives you 1 point for every other player who has edamame, if any. Miso soup only stays around and gives you 3 points if no one else played it in the round. Otherwise, they're all discarded. Onigiri comes in 4 different shapes, and you get points depending on how many of them you've acquired of the different shapes. Tofu gives you 2 points for one of them, 6 points for 2 of them, but 0 points for anything higher than that, because too much tofu is never a good thing. For special cards, Menu lets you draw 4 cards and then play one of them immediately. Special Order comes into play as an exact copy of another card. Spoon gets swapped, potentially, with a card from the player to your left's hand if you name a card and they actually have it in their hand. Takeout Box lets you flip as many cards as you want that you previously played face down, with each being worth 2 points. And finally, Tea is worth 1 point per card that you have played the most of in the round. Therefore, let's say that you played 7 Nigiri cards, and that is the most that you've played of any of the types of cards. You would therefore get 7 points from Tea. That is Sushi Go Party. You know, to be completely honest, I've always liked Sushi Go. I've never not liked it. I'm not sure that it even squeaked onto my 2 top 100 lists that I've done so far, however. I'm pretty sure, I'm almost definitely sure it didn't pop onto my last one, and I don't know about the one before that, because I just kind of forgot about the game. There's been so many other games, not just big box games, but even just smaller filler games and light card games that I've gotten over the past couple of years that Sushi Go just kind of got lost in the mix. I played it so much when I first had it, and it just wasn't as exciting for me anymore. And then I saw Sushi Go Party, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be some tacked together nonsense. I mean, what's this going to be? Ridiculous party. Well, the thing is, I hesitate to call this a party game, and literally the only reason it's called a party game is because it can go up to 8 players. Would you call 7 Wonders a party game? Because it can go up to 7? Maybe 8's the magic number? I don't know, okay? But I wouldn't consider this a party game necessarily. That's a bit misleading. But what I will tell you with definitive assurance is that I really enjoyed this, surprisingly. And again, it's because I think it breathed life into the game. That it really needed. And I wouldn't have thought that it needed it. I'm like, expansion? I mean, what are you going to do? Add more types of sushi? Well, yeah, it did. It added more types of food. And more action cards, more special action cards like the menu. Things that do not stick out like a sore thumb. They do not make this game too overly complicated. Yeah, I mean, you have to do a little more setup now. You have to decide what tiles you're going to use, lay them out in the board, which looks very nice, by the way. I really like how they made the tiles look, and you can randomize them however you want to do it, right? It's not that complicated. And then when you do it, you have a different permutation every time, and it's very, very interesting to me. And it just, again, it makes the game more interesting. Like, ooh, I wonder how this card works with this. Like, in a game where there's green tea, does it make the actual tea card a little more interesting, or whatever the case might be? Or is this, where we're racing to get the rolls here, but then we go back to maki rolls instead of the uramaki, and it's like, it's not as interesting anymore, but that's fine, because now we're not focusing on this. Now we're all racing to get this other thing. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it, that they have so much variety. And I'm like, oh, I hope that they do more now, which I would never have thought before I played it. And the artwork looks good. I mean, I've always liked the artwork no matter what the incarnation of Sushi Go was, but I've always thought they've done a very good job with that. I almost want the German version, which looks very bizarre for that reason. And so I can't complain about that. So I will talk about the components a bit, and it is a little bit important here. The most important thing is that I noticed as I was playing this, and I played this 3 times now, so it started sticking out to me more, is that the backs of the cards, and I didn't show this in the video because it would have been really hard to see on my camera, but the backs of the cards actually are slightly different shades. In fact, the front of the cards are as well, because they were all printed, in the same way. But the fronts don't matter because you're the only one seeing them at the time. The backs do matter, and it's a little off-putting that they're a slightly different shade. Now, you have to actually be actively trying to get something over on the other players to make use of that information. It's not that drastic of a shade. Other players didn't notice. I only barely noticed and thought, maybe that's nothing. And then I really noticed it when I was shooting the overview. So it is worth noting. Now, for me, it's not a huge deal. It's not a deal breaker because I plan on playing this game a lot more, and I'm probably just going to sleeve it because I play it with a lot of casual people who bend the shit out of my cards, just keeping it real. And so for me, it's not a big deal. I'm going to have opaque card sleeves. But it might be a big deal to you. I don't know. I know people who are very, very sensitive to those types of things. People who are upset about a couple of other games I talked about that had different card shades on the back, and people said, no deal, no dice, until they fixed that. So it's worth noting. The other thing is that the tin is fine. I mean, I hate tins in general. It's just because they don't fit anywhere. But okay, whatever. What is annoying is that inside, they go out of their way to have a tray for you to separate every single different card in the game, and then categorize them so you can easily grab them, right? Sounds like a good idea, but there's no place to put the tiles. The tray, you're supposed to put like this piece of like loose cardboard that they included with it on top of that to put the rule book and I guess the tiles and I guess the board. But then you're like smashing down your cards. It's just bad. So they had a good idea, unless I'm doing it wrong. But I ended up just keeping the tray in there, but putting the cards in baggies and just stacking them in there normally. So that's a minor complaint. But really, other than that, I love the idea of the board and how you put the tiles into it. The game looks good. It's got a good presentation. It's very appealing to newcomers, as usual, just like with the original version. Sushi Go is great for casual gamers, and this new version, even though it's a little more cumbersome to explain because now you have to explain, okay, we got to randomize the setup and do these different things here. Oh, we're going to play again? Okay, but we're going to play these different ones now. That can be a little bit cumbersome, but I think it's worth it. I think the variety of stuff that you get in this one, the different things that are going on, the different interesting ways that things score. I like the special cards, the ones that there's a copy, the menu card that gives you different options, the race card for the rolls. I mean, I can go on, but just in general, there's a lot of interesting stuff here, and I'm really happy that they did this. I was surprised that they did it. I was a little bit just not that interested in it to begin with, but now that I have, I'm so glad they did it. So that is Sushi Go Party from Game Right Games. I highly recommend it.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.